Danny Sordo, Pierre-Louis Loubet, before we head into WRC2 territory with Solberg, Mikkelsen, who returns to the championship, Greensmith, Sunanen, Rossell and Formeau. And someone who is returning also is Mike Chen, who's alongside me. We'll be chatting with Mike in a moment. Let's have a look at these tyre choices for the day then. Remember, we've got just a tyre fitting zone to punctuate the day. We've seen the majority of drivers here might go with the soft compound tyre. There is some hards within that mix as well. It's a tough day out there in terms of the tyre wear, especially during the afternoon loop. Second pass this morning, though, maybe not quite so tough, hence the soft.
Yeah, look, Bexy, I don't think it's a massive deal this morning to be running that soft tyre. I think because of the very nature of the stage, and because there's not that extra stage later on, the guys can get away with running the soft tyre, and they're not getting down to that bedrock straight away. There's a bit of cleaning to be done this morning, so the soft tyre is certainly the one to be on. How it fares, we'll find out once we get to the end of the loop, so that's going to be interesting to see.
We kickstart then, like the majority of stages here, on a tarmac stretch before they head up onto the gravel. That little area there, kind of famous last year for all the wrong reasons on the second pass of this stage, because that's where Sebastian Loeb, who was leading the rally at the time, made a mistake which we all really couldn't quite work out in our heads. But nicely, Elvin is up onto the gravel straight away.
Go on, Elvin. I was going to do the whole thing in a Welsh accent just for you, Bexy. I'm not going to. That's verging on insulting to all the Welsh people. I'm really sorry, all the Welsh fans that are watching, but my producer's giving me stick in my ear already.
That's for sure.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's for sure.
Yeah, brilliant to have Welsh fans watching and joining us. But getting back to Elvin, look, he's got a massive job on his hands this morning, Bexy, isn't he? Cleaning the road, and Portugal is notorious for road cleaning, particularly on that first pass. So yeah, it's been done before to win from the front, but it's a big ask. And the thing is, there's nothing to choose between the drivers. It's so tight. So Elvin's got to drive really smart this weekend. And if it is just a case of accepting finishing third or fourth and taking the points, then maybe that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. As he said, it has been won, and I think we've said that to him a few times this weekend, and he's kind of rolled his eyes a bit. It's like, oh, just put a little bit of extra pressure on my shoulders. It has been won from first on the road, maybe though in slightly different conditions, because maybe unusually, we're going to have dry conditions the whole weekend out there. Perfect sunshine. You can see the dust trail here, dense forest towards the start of this stage, which makes it a little bit hard for the heli to have an idea as to where the car is. So we're on board with the guys.
He's in there somewhere.
I think Portugal, though, as an event itself, it's an absolute classic, and certainly since we've moved back up to the north where, the real rally heritage was, we really enjoyed the time down in the Algarve, but the move north, which I think came in 2015, which is ages ago now, it feels like such a long time ago. It's been fantastic for the fans. There's been so many people coming here. We've ventured into real heartland territory of rallying. Portugal is famed for its passion for rallying itself. You can see that all across the country, but more so in this region than any other, it feels.
Yeah, it's its natural home, isn't it? As you said, the Algarve stages were brilliant, they were great, but this is its natural home. And the fans, there's so many, those unbelievable pictures from the past where you saw fans just lining the roads. Well, it's a slightly different and safer way of doing it nowadays, but the fans, they do turn up in their hundreds of thousands to come and line the stages here in Portugal, so it is brilliant. Just going back to that onboard, you could see how hard Elvin was having to work the steering, and that's just because the car is just moving around so much underneath him. He's, really scrabbling around for grip, and the more cars we see come through the stage, the quicker it's going to get as that clean line appears.
I'm interested to hear from them when they get to the end of it, because comments last year, a couple of drivers who went with an all-soft compound within this stage were then saying, oh, maybe having some hards on the car would have been good. So I'm interested to hear the comments when they get to the end of it. 4-minute gaps, just as a reminder for you this morning, between our cars. So we're still with Elvin right now. Rolf and Pera will get underway in around about 15 seconds time.
Yeah, just going back to the tyres, it is an interesting one, isn't it? Because all the WRC guys, they've gone for entirely for softs, with the exception of Tanak, Katsuta and Sordo, who've taken one hard for Tanak, one hard for Katsuta and two hard spares for Sordo, and I'm sure they'll all be in the back of the car as opposed to bolted onto it. But when you start to look at WRC2 runners, that's when we start to see the hard being used. For example, Teemu Sutherland has got 4 hards and 2 softs, so there's definitely a bit of tyre tactics, and that's as the stage starts to clean and it starts to get down to the bedrock and the temperatures start to come up a little bit later. Maybe the harder tyre is the better tyre to be on, and of course saving the softs.
Let's have a listen into Jone Halttunen here.
Ja oikeenpuus aukeaa nuole, pikkusuppuun. 2, aukko oikeenpuus, pidä suppuun. Kapea vasenpuus kirraa, 15. Pehmeä lyhyt vasen K, älä kiviin.
Rovanperä obviously chasing down that first win of the season. He's keen for it to come, like Elfyn Evans was keen for his first win to come. It had been a while he'd had to wait for it. For Kalle Rovanperä, not so long, see New Zealand last year. But still, a consistent season so far for Rovanperä. I'm loving the fact that the championship's so close right now as well.
Yeah, it is. There's nothing to choose between anybody. I think both in the WRC and the WRC2, we are set for a really exciting year. I can see both of these going right to the very end. So, yeah, it's fantastic. There's just no line at all. The car just sliding around all over the place. And it's so frustrating because you turn in and the car's understeering, and then when you nail the throttle on the way out, you haven't got the traction there, and you just know you're hemorrhaging time. And it's managing that frustration as well. Elfyn will know that he's losing time relative to everybody else behind him, and I think Kalle is going to struggle as well a little bit.
One of the main factors, and we've talked already about obviously the tyre compounds out there today, what they've gone with, but they do have to protect the tyres out there as well. Second pass effect, very much so, because it does start to rut a lot here. It's one of the factors, the big factors of Rally Portugal. It's very easy to knock a tyre off a rim or damage a tyre.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that in shakedown, didn't we, yesterday? And you know, there were a few tyres that were just pushed over the bead of the rim, and it is very easy to do so. It's just about being patient. You've just got to be patient and let the stage come to you. And
the downhill hairpins we talked about at the start.
And again, these are quite hard on tyres. These cars are heavier than the previous generation cars, so you know they're hard. When you're coming into a hairpin, and then you're sliding around the hairpin, and then you're sliding around the hairpin, and then you're burying the throttle on the way out, so the tyres start to spin up a little bit. So they are, you know, they're hard on the tyre as well. And again, just managing the degradation level of the tyre is something that the drivers now have to really consider, particularly on rallies like Portugal.
Let's take a look at the comparison then between Kalle and Elfyn this morning. It is Rovanperä with the advantage, 2.6 seconds after that first 4K split marker.
It'll be really interesting to see what the difference is between Rovanperä and Tanak and Neuville, and then we'll get a really good idea of how the stage is cleaning and how much time potentially Elfyn is going to lose on this morning, Luke Becks.
I think you're right, you know, he has to keep his head, and so does Kalle. I mean, he's only one position behind him. He's gaining time on him, but the others are going to gain time behind as it cleans. You have to keep your head in this kind of scenario.
Yeah, and Elfyn's very good at that. You know, he's so measured in his driving, isn't he? You rarely see him make... I don't want to jinx this, crikey, but you rarely see him make...
He knows where you live, so watch yourself.
You don't want to... You know, he rarely makes a mistake under these conditions, but it is about just using your brain, being patient, and not getting too flustered and frustrated by the fact that you haven't got the grip underneath you.
Our first 4 drivers into the stage have all won this event. They all know what it takes to be on the top step of the podium at Rally Portugal. Elfyn's not too far away now then from completing the stage and giving us his reaction to what it's like to be first on the road in here this morning.
Yeah, he just constantly correcting, and it looks great, but sideways isn't fast, you know, so I imagine he'll be not frustrated, but, you know, kind of What do you expect? It was as we expected, not a huge amount of grip to play with.
You see all the people up on the hillside. We're asking drivers specific questions this weekend. You know, who's the most different? Let's have a look at his time before I tell you that. 9:10.6 first time on the board.
He'll be pleased to get that stage out of the way. You know, it just gives him the confidence going into the next stage of what he's in for the morning. You know.
Yeah, we were talking to the drivers about who's the most different inside the car to outside the car, and most people picked Elfyn. It's the gentle soul, but in the car, fierce. Yeah, so picking out the hairpins obviously is the toughest element of the stage. Difficult, but as Elfyn said, to be expected.
Yeah, he's got a rough morning ahead of him. The other interesting is with these downhill hairpins, we're talking about the tyre degradation and everything else, but towards the end of the stage you start to see a few uphill hairpins, and you've got to be really careful as a driver, because downhill the momentum is working in your favour, but as you're going uphill it's very easy to stall the car or something like that, so you've just got to manage that and have that in the back of your mind, that you're keeping the revs up, you're keeping the throttle open, just so that you don't let them drop and end up stalling the car. Dust.
Even with a 4-minute gap, still hanging around a little bit, so good thing that they did extend. It's not too much. Got the first split coming up then for Oit, as he heads out into the more open sector of stage. So slotting in between Rovanperä and Tanak, just 9/10 off Rovanperä's pace.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the dust, there's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, it's part of the sport, and a 4-minute gap is a big gap. So, you know, the organisers doing everything they can to try and give the drivers the best opportunities for a fair playing field. But, you know, it is part of the sport. But it will be, just that dust that we just saw there, will just take a few % off how hard Oit is pushing, you know, and it knocks your confidence, it gets into your head. And so it will have bothered him a little bit. I'm sure maybe he'll mention that as he gets to the end of the stage as well.
Rovanperä's final split against Evans, 5.2 seconds faster. So a reminder, it was a 9:10.6 for Elfyn, as Thierry Neuville readies himself to get underway. Lots of tributes to Craig Breen this weekend, one of them right there on the very start line of this stage.
Yeah, sorely missed is Craig, and he will be forever in our sport, and so many tributes all weekend, and it's lovely. Yeah, famously sat beside me in Mexico in his underpants doing commentary, so you might be in for a surprise later on, Bex Williams.
Oh, honestly, there's a fine line there as to whether I'm going to be absolutely delighted by that or not. I think the latter.
There.
We'll keep you up to date with that element of the show as we go. But it's looking like a really strong run here for Kalle Rovanperä. I think he's going to be happy with this time. Well, it depends how everyone else does behind, of course. And we do have the first split in for Oit Tanak. As we said, he was just 9/10 behind Rovanperä. Neuville now next. This is a big time in comparison to Elfyn. It remains at 5.3 seconds faster. Good start to the day for our reigning world champions. Disappointed you don't have 2 watches on today, like Björn Elton. Let's cross out to Molly then, and hear from Kalle.
Kalle, that's that's quite a stage time. Your fastest currently on stage at the moment, and you went quicker than Elvin by 5.3 seconds.
Yeah, it felt like a good stage. For sure there was some dust in places hanging on the forest, so not easy to push in the dust, but yeah, clean stage, all okay.
Yeah, just referencing basically what you said, you know, when there is pockets of dust, and it is in that forest sector where it's really hard for it to move away. It does just jab at your confidence a little bit.
Yeah, it just hangs in there because the wind doesn't get into it. It's sort of protected by the trees, isn't it? So the dust just hangs. Not a lot you can do about it. It's part of the sport. It's all part of the game. And I imagine, to be honest, really, it'll be the same for everybody else. The dust does start to clear as more and more cars come through. It becomes, the stage surface just becomes that little bit less dusty. But you know, certainly for the first 4 or 5 runners, they'll probably all experience that. I've got to say, despite what happened in Croatia, I was really impressed with Thierry Neuville. You know, the car wasn't, and there's nothing wrong with that Hyundai at all, but it wasn't dialed into where he wanted it. But he absolutely drove the wheels off that thing all the time. Whenever we came to him on WRC or live, you could just see the car was absolutely on the limit. And you know, I know he was desperate to get a result there in Croatia, but he was, you know, he's so good at driving around a problem, and that's what in whatever motorsport discipline it is. If the car's not where you want it to be, you have to drive around it. You have to drive around that problem and adapt your driving style. And Thierry's very good at that.
Yeah, it was a real shame with what happened, but he kind of took some solace from the fact that he managed to nail the fastest time on the power stage.
Turned in just a little bit early there. You saw the correction. So he had the car in, and then there was that bedrock just facing him. He just had to correct the steering, open it up again, and then have another dab.
Tanak's final split has come in. He is now fastest within the stage. Only by a tenth of a second over Robin Pera. Esa-Pekka Lappi then on the podium in Croatia just a few weeks ago in 3rd place. He seems to be in a really good frame of mind coming into this event.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tough weekend, obviously, for everybody in Croatia, and Hyundai handled themselves superbly, and Esa-Pekka sticking it on the podium was a great drive, and already just into turn 1 there, you saw that the front of the car was pointed right on the apex of the corner. So, you know, Esa-Pekka, if he can keep his head together, he's certainly got the pace to replicate that podium, even to be challenging for the win this weekend, I'm sure of that.
Tanak now then not too far away, as you can see on the split, a little bit quicker, but not much, the smallest margin, 1/10 of a second up on Robin Pera.
This is where you've just got to be careful that those stalls don't come in, because it's actually quite steep. It's steeper there than it looks on the camera, and again here, it's nice and neat and tidy. Good traction coming out of there as well. 3/10 quicker, Bex.
Yeah, it's a good start for Oit and Martin. 9:05. And it's keeping it close between our drivers. Just 3/10 faster.
I think the end of this, just looking at the splits, the end of the stage is starting to clean up and be a little bit quicker than perhaps the start. So, you know, that's where Oit made his time up. Let's see what Thierry can do as well.
Oit, I guess that's what you can call a good start to the morning. Fastest through by 3/10 of a second.
Yeah, 3/10. It's a shaky ride at the moment. It feels a bit like a wooden horse, but when it's smoother, it's better. But on the bedrock, it's a bit shaky. But okay, we try to get used to it.
Brilliant.
It's like a wooden horse.
Class.
But the guys back at base are really appreciating that comparison right now.
A wooden horse. The suspension boys back at M Sport. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks. But it looked as if he'd really worked hard in there, so he was kind of laughing at the whole, oh, I'm fast as yet, but there's only 3/10, and I've really worked my socks off in there. But still, he is fastest at the end of the day. Let's see what Neuville can do. Second half of the stage.
Just running a little bit wide at that hairpin.
Didn't he?
And it's the front tyres that take the battering down into those downhill sections. Those, under braking, you've got all the weight of the car on the front of the tyre, and you're turning in as well. So, that's again just got to manage in particular the fronts there.
Some beautiful shots from the heli of these downhill hairpins.
I'm jealous of that job. They've got the best job in the world sat in that helicopter. I say that, I mean, I'd get in it and probably be sick everywhere.
I was going to say, have you ever been up in it when they are filming? Because I know a couple of journalists who've had the pleasure of doing that, and they've all thrown up.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be sick. My middle ear's long gone, Bexy.
Yeah, but no, you're right. I mean, it's the best way to watch the rally, certainly.
Interesting, Neuville just dropping a bit of time, 1.7 seconds down at split 2. So a good run through from Oid Tanak.
Just want to say a massive good morning to everyone who's listening. Whether you be at home or whether you be in the stages right now, we are aware that All Live is blasting out between the trees of many of the stages this morning. So a huge good morning to you all. Tacker underway, and another big weekend for him.
Yeah, he likes this rally, doesn't he? And
well, he was almost on the podium here last year.
Yeah, he likes the rally, and that's the thing we're starting to see with Takamoto is the mistakes that we saw originally when he kind of first came into WRC. There were plenty of them, weren't there? But he's dialed those out now, and he's just consistently just scoring in the top 6, the top 7, and he's just picking. He's not making those mistakes. He knows he's not fighting for wins yet, so his focus is get to the end of the rally, and we're seeing that.
Needs to be strong in this uphill section if he wants to be faster than the man in front, which is Oid Tanak right now. It's going to be a little bit of a big ask, but let's see.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to drop time. He just, even under braking there, it just didn't seem like he was confident in the car. But let's see what he has to say.
7 seconds down. Yep, that's Thierry Neuville then safely through. First stage of the morning on a big day here in Portugal. No midpoint service, remember, just a tyre fitting zone. Well, punctuating the day.
That's the other thing as well. Look, it's only the first stage of what is a long rally. Thierry's dropped 2.7 seconds. At this stage, it doesn't really matter. He's got to manage the tyres. He's got to look after the car because there is no midday service. So, it is a matter of being careful with everything.
Thierry, that's 2.7 seconds of Tanak's time. What's the feeling like this morning?
Yeah, the feeling was good, to be honest. Not too bad. Maybe I was a bit too careful with the tires in some of the sections, but I had a good clean run. Obviously, there's a bit of dust in there as well, even with the 4 minutes gap. But it was just on the edge, so it was drivable.
Yeah, we can certainly see that from the pockets. There is dust there, but it's not impeding them in any way.
Yeah, I mean, 2.7 is not a huge amount dropped. And if he was, you could just see, particularly under braking, he didn't look like he was attacking the stage. And that was, as he said, just looking after the tyres. The thing is, Bex, he'll get that advantage back towards the end of the loop, because if he has looked after the tyres, he's got more rubber to play with later on. So, yeah, I don't think it's a big worry. Esa-Pekka running wide into that hairpin, slinging it in.
Let's have a listen in to Jarno Firm here.
Huomio vasena aukeaa kirraa sairaanpiste plus varonliukat. 4 vasen plus.
It's such a difficult one challenge-wise because you have different elements of the stage. It's sandier in parts, then it's a lot rougher, all within just one stage here.
Yeah, it's the stage conditions do change quite a lot, as you say, and you have to be you have to trust your pace notes, and you've got to be able to dial yourself into these into those surface changes. Esapekka's having a dig, you can see, but there's an element of maybe, it's easy for me to say, but an element of maybe overdriving. We just saw him run wide of that hairpin, and he's having a go, and you can hear how committed he is on the way out of corners. You know, on the throttle, you know, he's really looking for everything that he's got, just dropping 1.1 at split 2. So not a bad stage for Esapekka Lappi at all.
Back with Esapekka then as he makes his way downhill. As you said, he seems to be doing really well. There's a lot of commitment here this morning for the first stage. I found it interesting that Thierry said he was a bit too careful with the tyres in sections. You referenced it, obviously, with it just a tyre fitting zone. There's no midpoint service. They're not going to be carrying big bits and pieces in the car for the weight. They wouldn't. Oh, that seemed wide. That could just be the angle, though, of this camera. It's a difficult one because you can't essentially look after your car too much because you have to push. Everyone's at such a high level right now that you can't say, oh, well, there's no midpoint service, I'm going to have to back off a little. You simply can't.
Yeah, I mean, if you drop too much time, you know, kind of what's the point in being here? So you might as well stick it in the back of the truck and go home. You're right, you've got to push. There's no question about that. But just in the back of your mind, you'll know that, you know, if you do damage suspension, or if you do, then you haven't got that midday service to rely on. And it is only the first stage of the day, so it's very easy for us to be critical of times and everything else, when actually, you know, it's the first stage of a very long day. And as we said, time management and looking after the car. And to be honest, Bex, as well, just getting into the rhythm of getting into the rhythm, learning the stage, being back in the car, you know, it takes a little while. So, you know, it's the opening stage of a long rally.
You were half a second quicker on the first split, then you finished 1.7 at the end. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, all good. I mean, a clean stage, just coming smartly through. Yeah, that's about it. It's a narrow stage, hard to, yeah, you can lose a lot, let's say like this.
Is the feeling as good as it was in Mexico?
Yeah, all good. A bit of a dust, so I need to back off in some places, but yeah, luckily we had 4-minute gap, so at least it was still drivable most of the time.
The key thing from that is that, you know, he instantly responded, yes, the car is good. You know, so there's more there if he wants it. He said, I've just coming steadily through, first stage of the rally, steady away. So there's more there.
Super positive response, really, from Esapekka Lappi. I liked his, you know, it came through there smartly.
Yeah.
I used my brain there.
And look, no one wants to throw it off from stage one, do they? And it is a notoriously tricky stage. I mean, we said, Bex, at the start, you know, we have seen the very best in the world make mistakes in here. It's very, very easy to do so.
We're with Danny Sordo now, who's setting good times at the opening split. You can see here, not too far off the pace of Robin Pera.
Tell you what, it was a great first split from Calido, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Second car on the road, I mean, that's impressive.
Intent for the day, I think, really set down there. But Danny Sordo, he's got such a great track record of point scoring at this event. 6 podiums to his name here in Portugal. Not the ultimate prize at the end of it, not the top stack quite yet. Who knows, maybe this weekend. But he knows it well, so did the majority of the drivers. You're looking at most of them having almost double-digit experience in Portugal.
With the exception of this man.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you know, it would be, just coming back to Danny, I think what you said there is so important, Bex. It's, at a rally like this, where it is so easy to make a mistake, and there's very little margin for error, experience is what pays here, and being patient, knowing when to push, knowing when not to, and Danny's got that in bucket loads, hasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly has. It's the sixth time for Taka competing here. And like you said earlier, he likes this event. He did well here last year. I'm keen for it all to come together for him this weekend and to pick up another podium, because we have seen podiums for Taka. Of course, Kenya, each year we've been there, he's managed to be on the podium. He's on the podium in his home event, a Rally Japan last year. But he's desperately searching out another could it be this weekend.
Yeah, every time he's in the car, he's just getting better and better, and he's got the right mental mindset. You know, he's such a positive person, and
he's such a hard worker. Of all the drivers, I mean, they're all watching onboards constantly. They're all putting as much as possible into it, but maybe Taka just that extra level. He is working so hard to achieve his dream.
Yeah, he really is, and you know, when Takamoto first came over to the World Rally Championship and was getting involved, he could barely speak a word of English. You know, there's a little bit of blistering and some rubber's been pulled out of it, but they're not too bad. Again, it's only done 12 Ks, but they're not too bad.
Taka, that's third fastest through the stage, just 1.1 off the pace. That's a good start to the day.
Yeah, not so bad. Last 2 years has been, I'm losing a lot of time here, so still I had to...
Apologies, we missed what he still had to do, but I think he did it.
Yeah,
at that stage, because he's third fastest.
Yeah, that's a great start to the day for Takamoto, and we were just saying before we kind of heard from him there, he was. You know, when he first started this, he couldn't speak a word of English. Now he speaks better English than you or me. You know, he works. Well, maybe not you. Maybe not you.
That is difficult, though.
Definitely me. Definitely me. You know, so you know, he does work so hard, and whenever there's an opportunity for him to get better, he takes it, and that's what you've got to do at this level of the sport. The only thing that's really working against him is experience relative to other people. But as you said, every time he gets in the car, he's going quicker and everything's going in the right direction.
Let's have a look at Danny Sordo's splits. Let's see how he's doing.
It's 3 tenths up, but the first one, so it's a good opening split relative to Oitanak, that is. To Kalirov and Perry, who was quickest through, he's 6 tenths down. So Danny right in the mix, Specs.
He is. We'll see how that continues on then as we switch to Pierre-Louis Loubet. Again, another driver with quite a lot of experience here in Portugal. He's won in WRC 2 here. That was back in 2019, his championship winning year. And looking really good on the split for Loubet. Fastest at the opener.
Yeah, that's great. It would be nice to see Pierre-Louis Loubet get to the end of the stage and be told he's gone quickest. Of course, you know, the stage conditions are coming to him. You know, the stage is cleaner. There's a cleaner line there. He's got the most grip of any driver so far this morning. But it would be so good for his head to, you know, for his confidence to go, you know, well done, you topped the timesheets. You hear the car just scrabbling for grip there, and Danny just managing the throttle, and you've got to do that. You can't just bury the throttle, just light up all four wheels. You've got to manage it on the way out of these slow corners. Bit of a short shift there as well.
Still looking good split-wise.
So good to see all the fans out on the stages, isn't it? It's mega. And the service park here yesterday here in Porto was rammed, you know, so it's brilliant to see everybody turning up to come and see their heroes. And that's the beauty of the rallying as well, of the WRC, is that you can get so up close and personal with the cars, and you can, you know, you meet the guys. So yeah, no, it's brilliant to see all the fans turning up.
Yeah, it's so accessible. You're right. I don't think there's any other kind of motorsport like it where you can get as close to A, the action, and B, your heroes as well. Okay, let's have a look whether he can set the fastest time here. I think it's
going to be tight.
Absolutely doable, though, isn't it? Look at it, 2 seconds. Great start for Danny and Candido, 9:03 exactly. Loubet burst into shot than he was, obviously quickest at the opening split. They've got to take advantage of a great road position, these two drivers, and they're doing that so far. Let's hear from Danny.
Just while he's taking his helmet off. To Danny Sordo, Lube was 1.5 quicker at the first split.
As fast as through by 2 seconds. Did it feel that good?
What they do, the kids, the others, what's that?
Have a look.
It's okay, I have a little bit dust in some places, so I need to be careful, and also with the hard tire. But anyway, the car was working perfect from yesterday, so I feel really good with the car, and the driver at the moment is doing an amazing job also. So at the moment, all in the way.
All smiles.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, that's a super positive response there from Danny Sordo. I thought he said then, what did the kids do? That's what I thought he said to Molly. I'm sure he didn't, but it kind of sounded like that.
I'm going to be the only person who doesn't mention his age this weekend, because I know you have, and PK has, and it hasn't gone down well. So, Danny Sordo at the tender age of 21, currently fastest through.
Oh, you brown noser, you. Oh, I don't know. WRC2 is where we switch to now then with Oliver Solberg. And we'll keep an eye on Pierre-Louis Lubet, who's approaching his second split point within the stage. Obviously doing very well at the first split. He's 1.5 up on Sordo there. Let's see if he can maintain that. There's that 9.8k marker.
Yeah, that 9/10 that you can see is compared to Kalirov and Pera. So at that 9/10 point, he was actually 1.5 up, as you said, Bex, on Danny Sordo. So this next one is going to be, this next stage is, or this next split rather, is going to be critical, and it's looking good, isn't it?
7/10 up on Sordo there, so still maintaining the fastest stature through the stage so far. Sent back then to Oliver and Elliott. We've got a few WRC2 drivers within the stage right now. Mickelson's there, so is Gus Greensmith. You got some news? You looked pensive then. You looked as if you were about to say something really important there.
No, I was just going to say, you can see straight away, we just saw on the difference in the onboard between, you know, when we come to Oliver earlier on, the different speed differential between the WRC cars and the WRC2 cars. And the thing is, with a stage like this, you can lose so much in the WRC2 spec car. You've got to be so smooth because you don't have, you know, when you're coming in through these tight sections and you're slowing the car right down, you've got to carry the speed. You don't have the grunts that the WRC cars have got to pull you out of big slides and everything else. So relative to the rest of the WRC2 field, which is so competitive this weekend, you've really got to think about carrying all your speed, driving smart, driving smoothly, and you know, it'll be interesting to see the difference between Oliver Solberg, Andreas, Gus Greensmith, Teemu Sunen, Johan Ross. There's so many. I'm just reading a list of drivers that could continue, that could win WRC.
Do you want to go through the 43? No, you're right, though. It is a brilliant field. We talk about it at almost every event now. Right, the countdown's on. There are the yellow boards. Let's see what Lubet can do here.
Come on, lad. Come on, it's going to be so close.
Yes!
3/10. Well done. Good lad. That's a great start to the day for him. Brilliant.
Pierre-Louis Lubet leads the rally by 0.3 of a second over Danny Sordo. Oyt Tanak in third position. Great run to start the day. Yes, they've got a good position on the road. They've still got to drive that stage, though, and they're taking advantage to the maximum. That's great to see from Lubet. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, Louis, that stage win passes through by 0.3 of a second.
Ah, good stuff.
Look at that smile.
Yeah, it's good. It's better to start like that. Yeah? But yes, we stay focused. We have to continue, but it's a good start.
Well, he wasn't expecting that, was he?
Brilliant.
Is it the little nudge there to Nikolai? You know, we're fastest.
It'll mean that'll mean the world to him, and he's just got to. You know, obviously he'll be, excuse me, he'll be delighted with that. The adrenaline will be pumping through him. He's just got to be smart and compose himself now, because clearly the Pumas, the M Sport Pumas are working. You know, we saw Oyt Tanak putting in a spectacular drive early on in the stage, and now Pierre-Louis Lubet backing that up with a stage win. So the cars are working well. He's just got to you know, temper his emotions and, you know, keep that momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I believe Molly is going to be heading off away from the stage end now to head to the next one for her, which is stage 3, Argonil. So we'll hear from the drivers again there. Well, we stick with WRC2. Let's have a look at the split progress then for our drivers there. Obviously, Oliver Solberg, the first WRC2 car on the road. Mikkelson's 1.1 seconds behind. Greensmith was faster than Oliver at the opening split by 9/10 of a second.
Yeah, Gus loves this rally, doesn't he? And
he really does.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's his favourite rally, and he had a really good pre-event test. And I just think, you know, we're seeing this really, we're starting to see the natural pace that Gus Greensmith has got. You know, he is incredibly quick naturally. And, you know, having stepped back down to WRC2, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all, you know, he's just, there's this kind of, all the pressure's gone. He can just get in the car and drive it. So, so far, a good start from him as our first WRC2 runner. Crosses the line with a 9:22 for Oliver Solberg.
Yeah, that is the first time on the board then. That's who we're going to be comparing everyone to. Again, it's tight championship-wise, you know, within WRC2 as well, because we've obviously seen Johan Rossell have a fantastic start to the year. We've also seen Oliver Solberg take the win in Sweden. So we have 10 points between Rossell and Solberg. That's first and third in the championship.
Yeah, it's anyone's game in WRC2 this year, isn't it? It's so tight.
We totally should have done the predictions at the start of the year in the envelopes. We should have. I said we should have. No one joined me on that.
Just coming back to what we were talking about earlier, Bex, is you can see the difference in driving style, you know, with these WRC2 cars, particularly at the hairpins. Look how just neat and tidy Andreas is. You can't afford to arrive at the hairpin late and just throw it in. You can, I mean, it's still not the fastest way in the WRC car, but you can get away with it, which you can't with these. You've just got to be so neat and tidy.
Watching Mikkelsen now then. 3 seconds down from Oliver Solberg at the final split point. For Mikkelsen, he has had seat time. He's been doing quite a bit of testing, has been competing in rallies. We saw him in the Azores not so long ago. But he admitted yesterday, shakedown, he's feeling a little bit nervous ahead of all of this.
Yeah, well, it's you know, I was chatting to him yesterday and he said it's good to be back, but he said the butterflies are there. So,
but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it does. Look, it's, as we said, right, it's the first stage of a long rally. So, you know, for Andreas, if those butterflies are there, and they will be, I suppose, for everybody, but if he is a little bit nervous, the one thing you want to do is just get through the first stage safely. So if he drops a little bit of time here, it's not the end of the world.
Now, we missed part of an interview. Let me just see this time. 3.3 off Solberg's pace here. We missed part of an interview with Takamoto Katsuda.
He looked like he left quickly, didn't he?
He did leave quite quickly, and we're just getting some messages in from Molly now, who's en route to her next stage. Taka said there was some issues with voltage, which is why he had to leave the stage end quite quickly.
So potentially, could be a sensor, but it could also be potentially something like an alternator issue or something like that. So, you know, I really hope that that's not the case and that they can get that sorted.
Teemu Suunanen back with us again. And just half a second behind Gus Greensmith. We've got so many drivers. I can't call you Mike. This just feels wrong.
Don't call me Mike.
I'm just going to call you Jenny. I'm sorry.
If someone calls me Mike, I feel like my mother, I've done something wrong and my mum's angry at me.
I almost I was a little bit sick in my mouth when I called you Mike yesterday. It just felt so wrong. But it's so good to see an array of drivers within WRC2. The younger drivers who've come through the ranks, who are working their way up. The guys who have been at the top level, who've taken a step back, but have all this experience. It's a really great benchmark for the youngsters to, you know, pit themselves against these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, obviously the WRC, we're going to have a brilliant championship, unbelievable, but it's backed up by the WRC2, where you said you've got these young drivers and then other drivers who've come back who've got loads of experience. And I think for the first time, we've got for the first time in the WRC, we've seen that certainly in this category. So, you know, you're just going to want to keep your eyes on both, and I actually think the WRC2 is definitely going to go all the way down to the wire. it's worth, you know, we'll come back to it later, but, you know, Chris Meeks is here this weekend as well, and that's brilliant to see. And so many other drivers, those young drivers we were chatting to yesterday, were going, it's brilliant that Chris is here and in the same category, because pitting myself against somebody with that natural pace and that experience.
Yeah, man who's won this event outright.
Yeah, it was 2016. Yeah, 16.
Mickelson was second to him at that point. So, okay, that was Gus Greensmith who came through 1.1 seconds slower than Solberg. So Solberg still leading in terms of WRC2 here. We look though a bit further behind and we're starting to see the yellow, green numbers. Can't get my colours right this morning. Sunanen is 2.1 up on Solberg at the final split point. We've got Johan Rossell, our championship leader, into the stage. He's 4/10 up over Solberg at the start. And Adrien Fourmeau with some great pace right at the start of this stage. 1.6 up on Solberg. What a rally Croatia Johan Rossell had. It was dominant. You know, he had a lead of over 35 seconds at one point. Yes, it did come rapidly down. He was being chased down during the weekend, but brilliant win for him there.
I think the beauty of this weekend, though, Bex, is that the field that we have, you know, they've all ended up joining. They've all come together, which we haven't seen in other events. Whereas here you've got you've got everybody joining the same event, so we can really pitch each other against you know, the top guys. Timu is against Johan, and so on and so forth.
You're right there.
I'm fine,
Okay, good, great,
I'm fine.
Perfect. Cold flannel needed for Chenny here. Teemu Sunanen complete, and he is fastest through within WRC2 so far. 9:19 is the time, 3 seconds up on Solberg. So great start to the morning for him. We join Adrien Fourmeau. We've seen quite a number of upgrades to the Fiesta, the first section of this year. Adrian was telling me yesterday how much he's noticed a difference, you know, how much more confident he's feeling within himself in the car, and obviously reflected here in the times he's setting.
He needs to, Bex, because he's not had the best start to the year, and all it takes, again, it's how close it is, you know, it sound like a broken record, but all it takes is a win, a couple of podiums, you're right back in the fight. But Adrian, he does need that this weekend for his confidence and for his championship campaign.
Let's watch then as Rossell heads now to the final section of stage. Just 1 second off the pace of Sunanen here. As I mentioned, championship leader heading into this event, but will he be when we leave it? That's the big question. Strong performances throughout the past couple of years on both tarmac and gravel. It was originally tarmac where Johan felt the most comfortable, but he has proved to us that he is worth his mettle on gravel as well. We've got Fourmeau heading towards the second split point. This is Rossell completing. They're not quite as quick as Sunanen, 1.5 seconds off the pace there. So second fastest within the WRC2 category. Big good morning if you are just joining us. We're on the opening test of the day. Got a group of 3 stages this morning for the drivers head to a tyre fitting zone. No midpoint service. 3 stages this morning, 4 stages this afternoon. 5, no, 4. I'll get my maths right in a minute. I was right, 5. Fourmeau then was fastest at that opening split point. See how he's doing now, second split to Sunanen, setting exactly the same pace. So completely level this final sector now. Really important for Fourmeau. positive there. The time is obviously very much there this morning. Also got Griers in, Zaldivar, Sami Pyrie, Robert Ververs, all within the stage. This final stretch as they work their way back up the hill. Jenny said it earlier, it is, you know, kind of deceptive on our cameras sometimes. This is a lot steeper than it actually looks. Okay, the countdown to Suunenen's time there. Remember, it's a 9:19. Our WRC2 front runner is set on this opening stage. Let's see if Formo can beat that time. It's going to be pretty close. Through the yellow boards. I think he's just going to lose out here, though, isn't he? Yeah, 1.2 seconds slower. Still a strong run to start the day. So 14 drivers through the stage so far. Our opening test of the day, and of course it is Pierre-Louis Loubet who leads the way by 0.3 of a second over Danny Sordo. Oyt Tanak is third overall. Then we've got Kalle Rovanperä, 2.6 seconds off the lead. Takakat Suter fifth. Then we've got Lappi in sixth position. Neuville seventh. Elvin Evans is in eighth. Suunenen, who's leading the WRC2 group so far, of course, plenty more of them to come through, is in ninth. And then Adrian Formeau completes the top 10 for us.
Genuine question. What's that? How's my hair? Is my hair all over the place? Or is it all right?
Hello and welcome back to the service park here after what was a really interesting first stage there, Chenny. I mean, it's just 12 kilometres, but kind of what we expected in terms of the road position there, but certainly that sweet spot really kicked in after 6 cars or so, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a belter, wasn't it? And I think the one thing, PK, that we can take from it is that we are set for a close rally this weekend. As we were saying in commentary, I think the main thing is just getting through that first stage. It is key for all the drivers, isn't it? Just to get the confidence up, get going, get your morning underway safely, and get to the end of the stage. But brilliant to see Pierre-Louis Loubet taking a stage when you could see what it meant to him, couldn't you?
Yeah, third ever stage win for Pierre-Louis Loubet, so that's going to mean a lot. And obviously Danny Sordo, I think I agree with Bex. I definitely heard him say, what did the kids do? Because it's a big birthday just gone for Danny. But I think we can go down and join Julian Porter, who we've sent out to the road section to try and catch up with the guys, give us an insight of what's going on out there.
Yeah, thank you, PK. We're down at the refuel after that first stage. So between stage 1 and 2 of the rally, they've got a road section of 22 Ks. Put 18 Ks into it, they come to a refuel. We're so far away from the service path that you obviously can't go back and get fuel in. And they don't hold a massive amount of fuel. So they're in here. Tanak has already been through. So have the 2 Toyotas of Evans and Kalle Rovanperä. But our 2 Hyundais are in here. They're having a look at each other's tyres. Neuville actually leaning in and having a chat whilst the Hyundai is being filled up. But yeah, Neuville having a chat with Lappi to see potentially what those road conditions were like for them further back. But only 1 car further back, but then they'll actually know that Loubet now has gone quickest through and Sordo going second quickest through. But yeah, Neuville just kind of like having a look at his tyres. He's already changed his tyres. We passed him on the road section. Neuville has already swapped his tyres around to where he wants to go on. Esa-Pekka Lappi heading out of the refuel. It's 4 Ks from here down to the next stage. So they've just got to go through the village and carry on. The only car we saw when we followed them down, we came out behind Neuville and we followed the first 4 cars. The only one to stop between the stage end and here